Growing up, parents usually teach their kids to beware of strangers, suspicious cars, or people trying to lure them into certain places. And they warn them, not thinking that it could actually happen to them, but just out of precaution. And in reality, kids aren't the only ones who should be aware of their surroundings, because unfortunately, anyone of any age could find themselves in a difficult and dangerous situation. Well, this story shows just how dangerous a stalking situation could get and how you could protect yourself if you ever wind up in a situation like this. I was born and raised in Utah, and for privacy reasons, I won't mention which part of Utah. For the most part, growing up in Utah was fun, and I couldn't have wished for a better childhood. For those of you who don't know, Utah is filled with beautiful scenery. We have a bunch of mountain ranges, natural parks, and a number of lakes that give you the chance to do whatever you want to do in nature. I would say that the beautiful scenery and the many gifts from nature make up for other aspects of the state. If you've ever lived in Utah or known anybody who's lived in Utah, you would find out pretty fast that there isn't much to do besides enjoying nature. So as a kid, it made sense why I spent most of my time outdoors. And when I finally became a father, I tried to instill those same values in my kids. Nowadays, I'm currently in my 50s and I'm a father of 2 daughters. One of them is 13 and the other is 18. Being a parent is difficult, and it definitely requires a lot of patience. And it's even more difficult being the parent of a daughter, especially in this day and age with the influence of the internet and just the internet itself. The internet has proven to be a useful tool time and time again, but alongside its utility comes plenty of danger. Nowadays, having access to the internet is no longer a special privilege, which means that there are a lot of people out there that could do you harm. Well, a few years ago, my oldest daughter, who was then 16 at the time, came to me about a question that she had in regards to her Instagram profile. To preface, I never really liked the idea of my daughter using Instagram at such an early age, but I was confident that she would be safe while doing so. What she showed me on her phone was kind of alarming. From what I could see, it was a bunch of spam accounts following her profile. But what concerned me even more was the fact that every time she blocked one of these spam accounts, a new one would reappear with a similar name. She then proceeded to show me a bunch of private messages that she received from these accounts. The text messages and images that she received from these accounts were disturbing to say the least. All of the conversations seemed to be coming from the same person, and the conversation threads started out normal, but over time they became way more graphic, intimate, and inappropriately sexual. I was definitely sick to my stomach to find out that another grown man was texting my daughter, who was a minor at the time, in such an inappropriate way. And like any responsible father would, I immediately got the cops involved. Fortunately enough, this idiot had a picture of his face in several of the photos that he sent over, so it wasn't too difficult for the authorities to locate and arrest him. I'm not going to get into too many of the small details, but what I can say is that the person in connection with this crime was sentenced to 13 months in jail, and they recently got released. I was extremely disappointed to find out that a pedophile only got a year in jail for the crimes that he did, but at least he was caught, and while in court we were able to see his face. So by knowing his personal information, we went to the authorities once again to file a restraining order to protect my family and I. With a lawful restraining order in place, I figured that my family would be a lot more safe. To be completely honest with all of you, I wish that the story ended there, but unfortunately, there's more. Up until the fall of 2023, I really haven't got any complaints from my daughter concerning this man. But things started to drastically change at the start of December. Initially, my family and I would hear a car drive by our house every night and honk its horn excessively. At first, we thought it was a coincidence, a prank at most by some teenagers, but we soon realized that we were definitely the intended targets. This would go on for several weeks, and even though I was never fast enough to actually see the driver in action, I just knew that it had to be him. I warned the authorities several times about these incidents, but they told us that they technically couldn't do anything since we never had any concrete proof. This would go on for quite some time, and it infuriated me that we couldn't really do anything. Yes, we did have a restraining order in place, but at that point in time, we couldn't really prove that it was him violating that order. It got so bad to a point where my daughter said that she even saw someone standing in our front yard. Even though I never saw someone standing in the yard myself, I would have been a fool to not believe my daughter. But my greatest fear never really hit me until one night in December, I received 3 messages on my phone that looked like this. The first one was a picture of my living room, and the other 2 messages read, "You are being watched. They've come to spill blood. March of the Pigs." The very next morning, I took this evidence to the police, and they told us that they would get back to us soon. I did not take those threats lightly, and ever since then I've taken a bunch of measures to protect my family and I, including installing cameras and even getting myself a weapon. This has definitely been the most terrifying experience for my family and I, and even though I would do anything to protect my family, the thought of taking somebody's life to protect them frightens me to my core. I mean this sincerely when I say to everybody out there to stay safe, and to the parents out there, always be mindful of what your kids are doing online.